Today, I want to talk to you about asking advice from other people in the music industry, other musicians, when you should ask them for advice, and who you should ask advice from. Now, this all came up because yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine, and this friend has released several singles to really good, both reviews from critics, also great fan reception. They've seen a huge growth in their online presence, in everything that they're doing in the music industry. And they had had a jam session with someone who was a working musician, and they had asked that working musician their opinion of how they were doing musically in business, etc. And that the working musician provided my friend with so much bad advice that it was just like blowing my mind. And then I had to sit there for like 35 minutes and literally talk my friend out of all the bad advice. So let me explain why that was a bad move. Let me explain why the advice was bad, and then how you can apply this to your own life. So the advice that was given was that this person is a singer, my friend is a singer, and that they need to work on their belting, and that they need to stop being so eclectic in the singles that they release and find a sound and niche down, which, okay, those are somewhat valid points, but we'll get to that in a moment. And what that did is that completely messed with my friend's headspace. And they were going around saying to themselves, oh, I'm not quite where I need to be. I'm not doing the right thing. So instead of taking that energy and that focus and executing on what they needed to do, they were taking that energy and that time and spending it thinking about all the things they should be doing, according to this person they talked to. So let's break down, number one, why this advice was bad, and then apply this universally so you can actually use this suggestion that I'm giving you in your own life. So this advice was bad for a number of reasons. Number one, from a working musician perspective, your job is to be a malleable, moldable piece of clay to a certain degree. Yes, you can still have your own voice, but your job is to conform and learn the music of whoever's hiring you for the gig. Your job is essentially to be a Swiss Army knife and to show up and pretty much to be able to do anything that is asked of you, which, yes, means you need to have a variety of techniques mastered. You need to be able to read music well, generally. You need to be able to improvise a little bit, for sure. There's a huge amount of skill set and probably over a decade of work easily that goes into building the skills to being a working musician. Now, what that means is that when someone who is first let's talk about the difference between that and being like a pop star. So the difference between that and being a pop star is that when you are a pop star, you want everything tailored to you, to put you in your best light so that you sound the best that you possibly can. Right? So you want to have every single song, if you're singing, to be only in a key and only the notes that are going to make your voice sound the best for whatever it is in that moment. You want the tempo of each song to be right where it's comfortable for you to sing, obviously balancing that out with how the song sounds, but you basically want to tailor your entire musical world to making you sound the best that you can sound, possibly. And what that means is you take working musicians who play in your band and you have them tailor themselves to you so you sound the best. Now, here's where the disconnect happens. When someone is trying to be the sole point of focus or the star of the show, and they're asking the person whose job it is to be a Swiss Army knife how to do that, it's incompatible. It's like you're asking someone how to build a house with a Swiss Army knife. That's not what a Swiss Army knife is for. It's not what it's for. You need power tools, you need construction workers, you need contractors, you need people to lay a foundation. And all of these things are not in the purview, they're not in the skill set of someone who is a working musician. They're not. These are business skills, and on top of business skills, it's like a completely different mindset and approach to music. As opposed to trying to be a Swiss Army knife, you're trying to build a house. It's two different things. And so what happens is when you ask someone who is a Swiss Army knife and specializes in being a Swiss Army knife how to build a house, they're going to look at it from the perspective of being a Swiss Army knife. And you cannot build a house when you are a Swiss Army, you cannot build a house with a Swiss Army knife. You cannot do it. You need a whole bunch of other skills and a whole bunch of other skill sets and a whole different mindset of how you live your life and how you approach music. And so what I took like 30 to 40 minutes to explain to my friend was, look, yes, this person is right. Technically speaking, you should be working on other techniques. However, because you have a limited amount of time in each day and you are trying to be a pop star or a rock star or a country star or a video game music star, whatever it is, you have so many more things on your plate that are not music related, so many more skills and demands on your time that are not music related that you need to go focus on and you need to master while you are also mastering your own music. And so I said, look, yeah, sure, it's a valid point to diversify your technique skill set, but like let's do that in 2 years when you've really laid a solid foundation for your career. Because think about it too, it's like 2 different cars, okay? It's 2 different vehicles. The working musician is putting all their effort into building a car, a vehicle, where they have a diversified skill set, because that vehicle, that car, that diversified skill set is like the gas. That's going to take them the farthest. Right? Whereas the pop star, yeah, having a diversified skill set will take you far, but the opportunities that are available to you and that you want to pursue as an artist, you want a completely different car that runs on completely different gas. And the gas that your car runs on is you having your music together and you having your business stuff together, and then you bringing those 2 together. And that's how you power your music car. So, sure, some valid points can be made from the Swiss Army knife to the house builder. Some valid points can be made, to use the second analogy, of the car that runs off the diversified skill set gas versus the pop star skill set gas. But it's 2 different things. So in your life, when you ask other musicians for advice, only ask advice from people who you know have done what you want to do at the level you want to do it at. So for example, if you want to be a clarinet, or well, I really should say woodwind doubler, because normal clarinets, you get like, they'll double on sax and things like that too. So let's say you want to be a woodwind double or triple, and you want to play on Broadway in New York City. Should you, 1, ask advice from someone who plays woodwind doubles in, let's say, local school plays? Should you, B, ask someone who does woodwind doubling in local college level plays? 3, should you ask advice from someone who does regional tours? Or 4, should you ask someone who actually spent 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or even 1 year on Broadway as a sub or as a main chair for a production? I'd say number 4. I'd say you could get away with getting a lot of advice from, or D, I think I mixed up my 1, 2, 3, 4s and ABCDs, but it doesn't matter. You either ask the person who does the regional tours, like as a start, if you can't access anyone, but always go for someone who's actually achieved the thing, because they've learned so many lessons along the way that they're going to be able to tell you what you actually need to do. Whereas the person who's only ever done regional things, like for their local high school or for their local lower school or even middle school or even just like local theater productions, like, yeah, they understand the idea of it, but they don't know all the complexities and all the extra things that it is going to take for you to get to Broadway, like the networking, the showing up, I didn't ever make it to Broadway with that. So I actually couldn't tell you that. I would not be the right person to ask. You see? So when you ask someone for advice as a musician, make sure they have already done what you are trying to do. And the same thing goes if you're a music student looking for a teacher, find a teacher who's already done what you want to be able to do at the level that you want to do it at. So like people come to me and say, "Hey Dan, could you teach me flamenco guitar?" And I'm like, No, I cannot, because I have not done flamenco guitar or really any classical guitar at any kind of level that would qualify me to teach you anything. Really. I tell people no, like go to someone else. I have a bunch of people who I know, like over at bestmusiccoach.com, who teach classical guitar because they're really good at it and they've done it and do it at a professional level. Like, no, go talk to them. So, in summary, when you are a musician or a music student and you want to ask advice for someone, only ever ask advice from people who've already done what you want to do at the level you want to do it at.